Well, our next inductee was The Voice. From 1984 to 1996, a K-State grad and a Wildcat to his core, he was more than just The Voice. His style, passion, and calls have endeared him to a passionate Purple fan base forever. He is a member of the Kansas Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He is currently, and has been for 20 years, the great voice of the Chiefs. Let's meet K-State Athletics Hall of Fame member, Mr. Mitch Holthus.
A 1979 and 1980 graduate of Kansas State, Mitch Holthus served as voice of the Wildcats from 1984 to 1996. During his tenure, Holtus was named Kansas Sportscaster of the Year 6 times, including 4 consecutive years, and won the prestigious Hod Humiston Award of Excellence by the Kansas Association of Broadcasters in 1996.
And a miracle finish! What it is! It's a big win for Kansas State!
Also while at K-State, Holtus was a key part in the development of the Junior Wildcat Club, as well as the coaches' radio shows. Currently in his 20th season as the voice of the Chiefs, Holtus is the longest tenured play-by-play announcer in Chiefs history and spends the offseason serving as an announcer for select ESPN college basketball coverage.
Presenting Mitch his Hall of Fame jacket is former K-State ball boy and an inaugural Junior Wildcat Club member. He also happens to be Mitch's son. It's Brian Holtus. Hall of Famer Mitch Holthus, ladies and gentlemen.
Not exactly sure when it all started. Maybe it was all the trips here. My parents brought me here to visit my grandparents, who a lot of you knew that you didn't know because they had Vern's Donuts. Maybe it was developing friendships as early as kindergarten, lifelong friends, people like Russ Briggs. Maybe it was my parents bringing my first K-State football game, and I thought I was at the Rose Bowl, even though there were only 13,800 people there that day. Maybe it was being the president of the K-State Club in 5th grade in Smith Center, Kansas, when I was the only member of that club. I was also the vice president, secretary treasurer, and sergeant of arms. Maybe it was being a student here when I was blessed enough to be the K-State ambassador. And for the first time, when I traveled the state and beyond the state and realized the passion, pride, and potential of the great K-State people. And from Troy to Elkhart, from Baxter Springs to St. Francis, and all points in between, and beyond our state's borders and beyond our nation's borders, I saw what K-State was all about. Maybe it was a night on the lawn of Anderson Hall when I was tapped for mortarboard here as an undergraduate, and I was lined up in alphabetical order, and I was H, but she was J, and J was this gal with braces and little bobbed hair, and she was the point guard on the K-State basketball team. My wife of 35 and a half years, Tammy, who has stood by me for short nights and long nights and nights away, and wins and losses and good ideas and bad ideas. Maybe it was not only being the voice of the Wildcats, but feeling responsible to hold up my end of the bargain for my boyhood heroes, Dev Nelson and Fred White, or being able to keep the chair warm and pass the baton to people like Greg Sharp and Wyatt Thompson. Maybe it was not only being the voice of the Wildcats, but being the sales manager of the Wildcat Sports Network and the unofficial marketing and promotions assistant in the athletic department, and trying to build an infrastructure here so that we could compete and we could win. And difficult to do that because it helped when you won games every now and then. And I went 3 falls and won 2 games. Maybe it was starting the Junior Wildcat Club because I knew that 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds would make decisions for life on the school and the team that they would follow. And maybe they would start their own 5th grade K-State club. Maybe it was those first Junior Wildcat Day when Frank Hernandez caught that pass at the near front pylon. That was the first win that started a generation of winning. And maybe it was starting the Cat Chat radio shows, and we didn't have those. I wanted to market our coaches in our school. And working with Ed O'Donnell and trying to get that first radio show that almost never happened. Or first working with Ed to get our first extensive coverage of K-State baseball, and Coach Clark will remember that, in K-State women's basketball. And maybe it was that first Junior Wildcat Spring Kids Day when my daughter Haley, who wore the cheerleader dress during the fall, had a 64-yard touchdown run that was called back because of a holding penalty at KSU Stadium. Or maybe it was the shaking, sweaty palm of my right hand that tried to interview Jack Hartman. Or shake the hand of Lon Kruger after 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances in an Elite Eight run. Or the same hand that made a fist and fist pumped at Dana Altman in the locker room at Allen Fieldhouse on Big Monday when we beat number 1 KU. And proud of that team that did that. Maybe it was the same hand that clasped my other hand in prayer when my son, who was a ball boy at Bramlage Coliseum, was trying to wipe the sweat on the floor, and I was praying he would get that done before the 3-on-2 break at midcourt would actually get to him. Yeah, maybe it was that. And maybe it was broadcasting the last game at Ahern Fieldhouse, beating Norm Stewart, or broadcasting the first game at Bramlage Coliseum, beating Gene Cady and Purdue. And maybe it was meeting Bill Moses Snyder for the first time and realizing this cat was different. And maybe it was talking about Bill Moses Snyder letting our people go from 23 years of Sooner bondage and quoting scripture on the air as Pharaoh's Sooner chariots were swallowed up. And people in the K-State athletic department thought I was speaking in tongues, quoting scripture. Maybe it was Chad May's quarterback sneak from 1 yard out that I still see to this day and see so often that sealed our Copper Bowl bid. In my mind, I was in a euphoric state thinking, I wonder if I'll get a bowl ring out of this, 1. But 2, that euphoric state quickly changed when Moses got in my face and said, you need to organize the bull pep rally for Tucson. And I thought, how's the voice of the Wildcats now in the pep rally business? And maybe it was my bodily fluids and my lower extremities going crazy that night as I drove home, thinking, how am I going to put together a pep rally in Tucson? Because I didn't want to let Coach down, and I didn't want to let the 1993 football team down that was so awesome. That football team that reached out to my brother-in-law, who's here tonight, who had suffered a severe and even possibly life-threatening injury with a severe electrical fire in Wichita, and those guys reached out to him, and he'll remember that. And maybe it was the Amy Button Wrens, or Jenny Roney Meek, or Jeff Spurkus Grantham, or Bernie Haney, helping me put together that first pep rally, brought to you by Wet Willie Water. And I was hoping 500 people would show up because I didn't want to face Moses if this was going to not work. And it was scriptural again because it became the feeding of the 5,000. How many were there that night at the Westin La Paloma in Tucson? It was crazy. People came from everywhere. And we freaked out that Tucson hotel. And I remember we introduced the team in the middle of all these thousands of K-State fans opened up, and that team walked in. And I saw guys with tears in their eyes, and I was fighting back my own tears. And I knew we were going to kill Wyoming the next night. And we did. Maybe it was over 1,200 games and events, working with Ed O'Donnell, John Cadillac, Kenny Mossman, Stan Weber, Ben Boyle, Greg Sharp, Bruce Steinbrock, and others. Maybe I felt all those things when Kenny Lanou called me this summer when I was in Houston, Texas, headed to Port Arthur, Texas, to do an event like this for Jamal Charles. And Kenny called me and told me what this night was going to be. And I pulled off the exit ramp on a very busy interstate in Houston. And all of the things that I mentioned to you flashed in front of my eyes. Maybe it's because I thank the Lord for this great place and all of you great people and all of the great moments, because I have been truly blessed. And maybe it's because this is a big, 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 big honor to receive. Thank you, and God bless you.